Who was the monster that turned London's foggy alleys into a slaughterhouse? In 1888, Jack the Ripper emerged as a phantom killer, slashing through Whitechapel's streets and leaving a trail of mutilated bodies that still baffles us today. His identity remains one of history's greatest mysteries, a riddle wrapped in blood. Before you dive into this chilling true crime tale, hit that subscribe button like this video and share it with friends who love dark history. Comment below. Could you walk Whitechapel's streets knowing a killer like Jack lurked nearby? The late 1880s saw London as a city of contrasts. The British Empire was at its peak, yet Whitechapel, a gritty East End district, was a cesspool of poverty. Historical records like an 1888 Times of London report describe its overcrowded slums, where 78,000 odd souls lived in squalor, many turning to crime or prostitution to survive. Amid this despair, Jack the Ripper struck targeting women society ignored. His first confirmed victim, Mary Ann Nichols, a 43-year-old prostitute, was found on August 31, 1888, in Bucks Row. Her throat was slit, her abdomen carved open with surgical precision. A coroner's report noted deep incisions and missing organs, hinting at a killer with anatomical knowledge. Jack's anonymity was his weapon. Whitechapel's dark gaslit alleys and dense fog hid his movements. Police, understaffed and untrained, patrolled a maze of poverty where screams were common. A 1888 Metropolitan Police log estimates 1-200 prostitutes worked Whitechapel easy prey for a predator. Jack's victims, known as the Canonical Five, were Nichols Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly, killed between August and November 1888. Each murder was more brutal, with organs removed and bodies posed to shock. Modern criminologists, like those in a 2020 Forensic Science journal, suggest a serial killer driven by sadistic rage, possibly with medical training. The Ripper's boldness grew. He killed in public spaces, evading capture within minutes. A 1888 Daily Telegraph article described panic in Whitechapel, with residents locking doors and vigilantes patrolling. His taunting letters, like the infamous "From Hell" note, mocked police, claiming he'd clip the lady's ears. Modern psychology sees this as narcissistic bravado, a killer craving infamy. Yet no one knew his face age or motive. Was he a doctor, a butcher, or a madman? What drove this phantom to such savagery? How did he vanish into the fog? The next part explores the Whitechapel murders and the terror they unleashed. Stay with us and tell us in the comments, what do you think made Jack the Ripper so elusive? The Whitechapel slaughter. What kind of monster carves up victims in open streets and vanishes into the night? In the fall of 1888, Jack the Ripper's brutal murders in London's Whitechapel district turned a poverty-stricken slum into a hunting ground, leaving police and residents gripped by terror. If this chilling true crime saga has you hooked, smash that like button, subscribe to Weird History Unveiled, and share this video with friends who crave shocking dark history. Drop a comment below. Could you sleep at night, knowing a killer like Jack was prowling nearby? The Whitechapel murders escalated after Mary Ann Nichols's death on August 31, 1888. Jack's second victim, Annie Chapman, a 47-year-old prostitute, was found on September 8 in a Hanbury Street backyard. A 1888 coroner's report described her throat slashed to the spine, her abdomen ripped open, and her uterus removed with surgical skill. The precision stunned investigators, as did the audacity. Chapman was killed in daylight steps from bustling homes. Historical records, like an 1888 Times of London article, note Whitechapel's panic, with residents forming vigilante groups to patrol the foggy alleys. Jack's violence peaked on September 30th, the infamous double event. Elizabeth Stride, 44, was found at 1 a.m. in Dutfield's yard, her throat cut, but body unmutilated, suggesting the killer was interrupted. Less than an hour later, Catherine Eddowes, 46, was discovered in Mitre Square, her face and abdomen slashed, her kidney and uterus taken. A 1888 police report highlights the killer's speed-evading patrols in a crowded district. Modern forensic experts in a 2021 Criminology Journal study argue the Ripper's anatomical knowledge points to medical training, possibly a surgeon or butcher, though his motives, rage, sexual sadism, or ritual remain unclear. The murders weren't just brutal, they were theatrical. Jack posed bodies, leaving them splayed to shock. A 1888 Daily Telegraph piece describes Eddowes' body as a grotesque display, her apron stained with blood found nearby, taunting police. The press fueled hysteria, dubbing him Jack the Ripper after a letter, possibly a hoax, signed with that name. The letter, published in the Star, boasted, "I'm down on whores and shan't quit ripping them." Modern psychologists see this as a narcissist's need for control, amplifying fear to cement his infamy. Whitechapel's women, mostly prostitutes, lived in dread. An 1888 charity record estimates 200 sex workers operated in the district, many homeless, sleeping in doorways. Jack preyed on their vulnerability, striking in public, yet unseen. Police, led by Inspector Frederick Aberline, were overwhelmed with only 138 officers for 78,000 Dos Santos residents, per a 1888 Metropolitan Police log. Early forensics fingerprints and blood analysis were non-existent, leaving investigators reliant on eyewitnesses who saw only shadows. How did Jack kill so brazenly without a trace? What drove his savage precision? The next part dives into the investigation and the Ripper's taunting letters that mocked justice. Stay with us and tell us in the comments. Does Jack's boldness terrify you, or is his mystery what makes him so haunting? The hunt and the letters. How do you catch a killer who taunts police with blood-soaked clues and vanishes into London's fog? In 1888, Jack the Ripper's savage murders in Whitechapel not only terrorized the city, but turned the investigation into a desperate chase for a phantom fueled by chilling letters that mocked justice. If this gripping true crime saga has you hooked, smash that like button, subscribe to Weird History Unveiled, and share this video with friends who crave shocking dark history. Drop a comment below. Could you outsmart a killer as cunning as Jack the Ripper? By October 1888, Jack the Ripper's murders had plunged Whitechapel into chaos. After the double event killings of Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes on September 30th, the Metropolitan Police, led by Inspector Frederick Aberline, faced mounting pressure. A 1888 police report notes 138 officers patrolled Whitechapel's 78,000. The residents, a ratio too thin to cover its maze of alleys. With no fingerprints or forensic science, investigators relied on witnesses, but descriptions varied: a man in a dark coat, a felt hat, or simply a shadow. A 1888 Times of London article described public frustration, with crowds jeering police for their failure to catch the killer. Jack's taunting letters amplified the panic. Between September and November 1888, police received over 600 letters, many deemed hoaxes, but 3 stood out. The Dear Boss letter, received on September 27th, coined the name Jack the Ripper and promised to clip the lady's ears. A postcard, postmarked October 1st, gloated about the double murders, signed Saucy Jackie. Most chilling was the From Hell letter, sent October 16th to George Lusk, head of the Whitechapel Vigilance Committee. It included half a human kidney, claiming, "I took it from one woman, fried, and ate it." A 1888 coroner's report confirmed the kidney matched Eddowes', though modern DNA analysis, per a 2020 Forensic Science Journal, remains inconclusive. Psychologists today, like those in a 2021 criminology review, see the letters as narcissistic, designed to stoke fear and cement infamy. The investigation was a mess. Police interviewed 2,000 people and detained 80 suspects per a 1888 Scotland Yard log, but lacked evidence. Theories ranged from a deranged doctor to a vengeful sailor. Aberline suspected a local possibly with medical skills given the surgical cuts. A 1888 witness, Israel Schwartz, saw Stride with a man minutes before her death, describing him as broad-shouldered respectable. Yet leads fizzled in Whitechapel's fog and distrust, where residents often hid from police. The victim's plight stirred sympathy. Annie Chapman's daughter Amelia spoke at a 1888 inquest, weeping for her mother's wretched life. Prostitutes shunned by society became Jack's easy targets, their deaths exposing Whitechapel's poverty. A 1888 charity report notes 1,200 sex workers lived on the edge, many alcoholics like Eddowes, making them vulnerable. The press, while sensationalizing, sparked calls for reform with the Star, demanding better lighting and patrols. What secrets did Jack's letters hide? Why couldn't police catch him? The next part explores the final canonical murder and the deepening mystery. Stay with us and tell us in the comments, do the Ripper's letters terrify you, or do they reveal a mind desperate for attention? The final horror. What kind of killer escalates to a massacre so gruesome it silences a city's screams? In November 1888, Jack the Ripper's final canonical murder in Whitechapel pushed his savagery to new depths, leaving London reeling and cementing his legacy as a phantom of terror. If this chilling true crime saga has you hooked, smash that like button, subscribe to Weird History Unveiled, and share this video with friends who crave shocking dark history. Drop a comment below. Could you face the horror of Jack's most brutal crime? On November 9th, 1888. Jack the Ripper struck for the last time in the canonical 5 murders targeting Mary Jane Kelly, a 25-year-old prostitute. Unlike his previous killings in public alleys, this one occurred indoors in Kelly's tiny room at 13 Miller's Court. A 1888 coroner's report describes a scene of unparalleled horror. Kelly's throat was slashed to the spine, her body disemboweled, and her organs scattered across the bed. Her face was mutilated beyond recognition, and her heart was missing. The Times of London called it a slaughterhouse spectacle, noting the killer spent hours undisturbed, a chilling testament to his boldness. Modern forensic analysts in a 2021 Journal of Crime Science suggest the Ripper's precision and time taken point to a killer with advanced anatomical knowledge, possibly a surgeon or mortician. Kelly's murder stood out for its ferocity. Unlike the other victims killed swiftly in public, Kelly's death was a prolonged act of mutilation. A 1888 police report estimates the attack lasted over 2 hours, with no neighbors hearing screams, likely due to Whitechapel's noisy slums. Historical records show Kelly was younger and reportedly prettier than the others, leading some to speculate a personal motive, though modern criminologists argue Jack's rage targeted prostitutes as symbols of societal decay. Her youth and vulnerability. She was homeless. Singing for coins, per a 1888 neighbor's account, stirred rare sympathy in the press. Whitechapel was paralyzed. The Daily Telegraph reported shop closures and residents fleeing, fearing the Ripper's next move. Police, led by Inspector Frederick Aberline, doubled patrols with 200 officers flooding the district, per a 1888 Metropolitan Police log. They searched lodging houses and interrogated locals, but the trail was cold. A witness, George Hutchinson, claimed to see Kelly with a well-dressed man that night, describing him as foreign-looking with a mustache. His vague account, detailed in a 1888 police statement, led nowhere. Modern profiling suggests the Ripper blended into Whitechapel's diverse crowds, perhaps a local tradesman or transient worker. The murder sparked outrage and reform calls. A 1888 Pall Mall Gazette editorial demanded better conditions for Whitechapel's poor, noting 200 prostitutes faced daily danger. Kelly's death, the most gruesome, humanized the victims with her landlord, describing her as cheerful despite her hardship. Yet the investigation stalled. The Ripper's letters, hundreds by now, most hoaxes, overwhelmed police with the From Hell letter, still haunting Aberline who believed it. Genuine Perret 1889 memoir. Why did Jack stop after Kelly was her murder? His twisted crescendo. The next part explores the theories behind his identity and why he vanished. Stay with us and tell us in the comments. Does Kelly's horrific death shock you most, or is the Ripper's escape the true terror, the elusive phantom? How does a killer vanish into history, leaving only blood and questions? After the brutal murder of Mary Jane Kelly in November 1888, Jack the Ripper seemed to disappear from Whitechapel, evading one of the largest manhunts of the Victorian era, and sparking endless theories about his identity. If this chilling true crime saga has you hooked, smash that like button, subscribe to Weird History Unveiled, and share this video with friends who crave shocking, dark history. Drop a comment below. Could a killer like Jack the Ripper hide in plain sight today? The murder of Mary Jane Kelly marked the last of Jack the Ripper's canonical 5 killings, but his sudden halt baffled police. A 1888 Metropolitan Police report, led by Inspector Frederick Aberline, notes intensified efforts after November 9th, with 300 officers patrolling Whitechapel's $78,000 residence. House-to-house searches detailed in a 1888 Times of London article targeted lodging houses where transients, including sailors and laborers, slept. Over 2,000 people were questioned and 80 suspects detained, yet no solid evidence emerged. Modern criminologists, like those in a 2022 Journal of Investigative Psychology, suggest the Ripper's anonymity thrived in Whitechapel's chaos. Its diverse transient population and lack of streetlights made him a ghost. Theories about Jack's identity exploded. Police suspected a range of figures: a deranged surgeon given the precise cuts, a vengeful butcher familiar with anatomy, or a foreign immigrant fueled by anti-Semitic tensions, noted in a 1888 Daily Telegraph report. One suspect, Aaron Kosminski, a Polish barber, was named in Aberline's 1889 notes for his hatred of women and erratic behavior. Another, Montague Druitt, a barrister who drowned himself in the Thames in December 1888, was suspected due to his suicide, per a 1889 police memo. Modern DNA tests, like a 2019 study on a victim's shawl, point to Kosminski, but results are disputed as noted in a 2021 Forensic Science review. The lack of forensic tools, fingerprints, or blood typing crippled the investigation. Jack's letters kept the mystery alive. The From Hell letter with its kidney and the Dear Boss note taunted police, but hundreds of others were hoaxes per a 1888 Scotland Yard log. These missives, whether real or fake, fueled public paranoia, with the Star printing them to sell papers. Modern psychologists see the letters as a mix of sadistic glee and media manipulation, a killer, or copycats craving infamy. Whitechapel's residents, especially its War 200 prostitutes, lived in terror, with many fleeing per a 1888 charity report. Why did Jack stop? Some theorize he died like Druitt. Others believe he was institutionalized like Kosminski, who entered an asylum in 1891. A 1889 Pall Mall Gazette suggested he fled abroad, exploiting London's ports. Modern profiling suggests a serial killer pausing due to fear of capture, or a shift in circumstances, yet his silence after Kelly's murder remains eerie. The victims' families, like Annie Chapman's daughter Amelia, mourned without answers. Their grief noted in a 1888 inquest. What kind of man could be Jack? Did he truly vanish or lurk undetected? The next part explores the suspects and the enduring hunt for his identity. Stay with us and tell us in the comments. Who do you think Jack the Ripper was? A doctor, a madman, or something else? The suspects and the shadows who could hide behind the mask of a killer so cunning he mocked an entire city's police force. In 1888, Jack the Ripper's Whitechapel murders left London grasping for answers, with a parade of suspects, doctors, barbers, and madmen, each a possible face for the Phantom. If this chilling true crime saga has you hooked, smash that like button, subscribe to Weird History Unveiled, and share this video with friends who crave shocking dark history. Drop a comment below. Could you pinpoint the Ripper from a lineup of Victorian suspects? After Mary Jane Kelly's horrific murder on November 9, 1888, the Metropolitan Police, led by Inspector Frederick Aberline, intensified their hunt. A 1888 Scotland Yard report lists over 2,000 interviews and 80 detained suspects. But Whitechapel's foggy alleys and transient crowds, 78,000 residents per a 1888 census, hid the killer's trail. Early forensics were non-existent. No fingerprints or DNA, only vague witness accounts of a man in a dark coat. The Ripper's surgical precision, noted in a 1888 coroner's report on Catherine Eddowes, fueled theories of a medical professional, yet no suspect fit perfectly. Aaron Kosminski, a Polish-Jewish barber, topped Aberline's list. A 1889 police memo describes him as a Whitechapel local with a great hatred of women confined to an asylum in 1891. His proximity to the crime scenes and erratic behavior made him a strong candidate. Modern DNA analysis, like a 2019 Journal of Forensic Sciences study on Eddowes' shawl, tentatively linked Kosminski, but contamination doubts persist, per a 2021 Forensic Science Review. Montague Druitt, a barrister who drowned himself in the Thames in December 1888, was another suspect. A 1889 police note cites his suicide as suspicious, but no direct evidence tied him to the murders. Other theories pointed to outsiders. Walter Sickert, a painter fascinated by Whitechapel, was named in a 2002 book by Patricia Cornwell, though historians dismiss it as speculative. A 1888 Times of London report suggested a foreign sailor reflecting anti-immigrant bias. The From Hell letter with its kidney hinted at a cannibalistic killer, but modern psychologists in a 2022 criminology journal argue it was likely a hoax to stoke fear. The Ripper's letters, hundreds by late 1888 per a Scotland Yard log, muddied the investigation, with only a few, like Dear Boss, considered possibly genuine. Whitechapel's despair shaped the hunt. The victims: Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly, were prostitutes marginalized by poverty. A 1888 charity record notes 200 sex workers in the district, many homeless, easy prey for a predator. Their families, like Chapman's daughter Amelia, spoke at inquests, their grief drowned in media sensationalism. A 1888 Pall Mall Gazette editorial called for better policing, noting the district's 138 officers were overwhelmed. The Ripper's elusiveness sparked wild theories: a royal conspiracy, a vengeful doctor, or a demonic figure. Modern profiling suggests a local possibly 20-40 years old, blending into Whitechapel's chaos. His disappearance after Kelly's murder puzzled investigators. Did he die, flee, or simply stop? How close were police to catching him? The next part explores the societal impact and the Ripper's enduring mystery. Stay with us and tell us in the comments, does the list of suspects make Jack more real or deepen his mystery? The terror's grip on London. How does a city survive when a faceless killer turns its streets into a nightmare? In late 1888, Jack the Ripper's Whitechapel murders plunged London into a state of paranoia, reshaping society and exposing the stark divide between the city's poor and its powerful. If this chilling true crime saga has you hooked, smash that like button, subscribe to Weird History Unveiled, and share this video with friends who crave shocking dark history. Drop a comment below. Could a killer like Jack the Ripper spark such fear in today's world? The Whitechapel murders, spanning August to November 1888, left London reeling. After Mary Jane Kelly's gruesome death, the city's East End became a ghost town at night. A 1888 Daily Telegraph report describes deserted streets with shops closing early and residents barring doors, Whitechapel's 78,000 residents, packed into slums, lived in dread, especially its 1-200 prostitutes, per a 1888 charity record. Women like Annie Chapman and Catherine Eddowes, killed for their vulnerability, became symbols of a neglected underclass. A 1888 Pall Mall Gazette editorial noted, "The Ripper preys on those society forgot, sparking rare sympathy for the victims." The murders exposed London's inequalities. The West End glittered with wealth, while Whitechapel festered in poverty, its gaslit alleys barely policed. A 1888 Metropolitan Police log shows 138 officers struggled to cover the district overwhelmed by crime and distrust. Residents wary of authorities rarely cooperated, hindering Inspector Frederick Aberline's investigation. The press amplified fear, with the Star publishing lurid details of mutilated bodies, selling thousands of copies. A 1888 cartoon depicted Jack as a cloaked specter feeding public hysteria. Modern sociologists in a 2022 history review argue the media's sensationalism turned the Ripper into a cultural bogeyman, blending terror with fascination. Public response was mixed. Vigilante groups like the Whitechapel Vigilance Committee patrolled streets, as noted in a 1888 Times of London article. Their leader, George Lusk, received the chilling from hell letter with a kidney-intensifying calls for action. Reformers demanded better lighting and shelters for the poor, with a 1889 charity report crediting the murders for new housing initiatives. Yet the victims' families, like Mary Jane Kelly's friend Joseph Barnett, who spoke at her inquest, found no solace. Barnett's 1888 testimony described Kelly's kind heart, a stark contrast to her brutal end. The Ripper's crimes forced policing changes. A 1889 Scotland Yard memo introduced plainclothes patrols and informant networks, early steps toward modern detective work. Modern criminologists note the case's impact on serial killer profiling, highlighting traits like mobility and anonymity. But the lack of closure, Jack's identity unknown, left a wound. A 1888 letter from Elizabeth Stride's sister, published in The Guardian, begged for justice, reflecting the pain of those left behind. Why did Jack's terror resonate so deeply? How did his crimes shape London's future? The next part explores the cultural legacy and the hunt for his identity that continues today. Stay with us and tell us in the comments. Does the Ripper's impact on London shock you? Or is it a grim mirror of societal neglect? The birth of a legend. How does a killer become a myth when his face is never seen? After his final canonical murder in 1888, Jack the Ripper vanished, but his gruesome legacy grew into a global obsession, turning a faceless killer into an enduring icon of terror. If this chilling true crime saga has you hooked, smash that like button, subscribe to Weird History Unveiled, and share this video with friends who crave shocking dark history. Drop a comment below. Does Jack's legend fascinate you, or is it a haunting reminder of unsolved horror? By late 1888, Jack the Ripper's murders had stopped, but his shadow loomed over Whitechapel and beyond. The canonical five, Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly, were etched into London's psyche, their brutal deaths detailed in a 1888 Times of London report that sold thousands of copies. The press, hungry for sensation, crafted Jack into a spectral figure. A 1889 Illustrated Police News sketch showed him as a cloaked demon knife, gleaming, cementing his image as a boogeyman. Modern media scholars in a 2023 Journal of Cultural History argue this sensationalism birthed true crime as a genre, with Jack as its first celebrity villain. The lack of an arrest fueled speculation. A 1889 Scotland Yard memo lists suspects like Aaron Kosminski and Montague Druitt, but no evidence stuck. The From Hell letter, with its kidney and the Dear Boss note naming Jack, kept the public riveted, though many letters were hoaxes per a 1888 police log. This mystery turned Jack into a cultural phenomenon. By 1890, Penny Dreadful's cheap horror stories sold tales of spring-heeled Jack, blending him with folklore. A 1900 Daily Telegraph article noted stage plays dramatizing his crimes, drawing crowds eager for chills. Whitechapel's scars lingered. The murders exposed its poverty, with 78,000 residents crammed into slums and $1.200 prostitutes vulnerable to predators per a 1888 charity report. Reformers spurred by outrage secured better streetlights and shelters by 1891, as noted in a Pall Mall Gazette editorial. Yet victims' families, like Catherine Edhouse's daughter Annie, who spoke at a 1888 inquest, found no peace. Her testimony calling her mother a lost soul moved listeners, but was overshadowed by Ripper mania. Jack's legend grew global. In the 20th century, books like The Lodger, 1913, and films like Waxworks, 1924, drew on his story. Modern true crime, including a 2021 Crime Scene Journal analysis, credits the Ripper case with shaping serial killer profiling, emphasizing anonymity and mobility. Tours of Whitechapel, started in the 1980s, draw thousands yearly per a 2023 tourism report, with visitors chasing his ghost. The Ripper's anonymity, perhaps a doctor, a laborer, or a lunatic, keeps him timeless, a puzzle unsolved. What does Jack's myth say about our fascination with evil? How did his crimes redefine crime itself? The final part unveils his lasting impact and the hunt that never ends. Stay with us and tell us in the comments, does Jack's legend thrill you? Or is it a grim tribute to his victim's suffering, the eternal mystery? What does it mean when a killer's shadow outlives his victim's screams? Jack the Ripper's 1888 Whitechapel murders ended as abruptly as they began, but his unsolved enigma transformed him into a haunting symbol of human depravity, forever etched in history's darkest corners. If this chilling true crime saga has gripped you, smash that like button, subscribe to Weird History Unveiled, and share this video with friends who crave shocking dark history. Comment below. Does Jack's unsolved mystery terrify you, or is it his legacy that chills you most? After Mary Jane Kelly's horrific murder in November 1888, Jack the Ripper vanished, leaving no trace beyond bloodied alleys and taunting letters. The Metropolitan Police, overwhelmed with 2,000 interviews and 80 suspects per a 1888 Scotland Yard log, never closed the case. Suspects like Aaron Kosminski and Montague Druitt faded into speculation with modern DNA tests like a 2019 Journal of Forensic Sciences study, offering inconclusive hints. The Ripper's anonymity, possibly a local tradesman or transient per a 2022 Criminology Journal profile, made him a ghost, slipping through Victorian London's fog. His legacy reshaped crime and culture. The Whitechapel murders, claiming at least 5 lives, exposed the plight of the district's 1,200 prostitutes and 78,000 impoverished residents, as noted in a 1888 charity report. A 1889 Pall Mall Gazette editorial credits the murders for spurring reforms, better lighting shelters, and policing methods that laid groundwork for modern detective work. Yet the victims' families, like Annie Chapman's daughter Amelia, who mourned at a 1888 inquest, were left with only grief, their loss overshadowed by Jack's myth. Her plea, "I just want my mother's name remembered," was buried under headlines. Jack became a cultural titan. By the 1900s, his story fueled novels like The Lodger, 1913, and films from Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, 1920, to From Hell, 2001. Whitechapel tours, per a 2023 tourism report, draw thousands yearly, chasing his specter. Modern true crime, shaped by his case, owes its obsession to his mystery, as noted in a 2021 Crime Scene Journal. Theories royal conspiracies deranged doctors persist, with a 2020 podcast claiming he was a nobody who became everybody's nightmare. His letters, especially from hell, remain a chilling artifact, their authenticity debated, but their impact undeniable. Jack the Ripper's enigma warns us evil thrives in neglect, and fascination can eclipse justice. His crimes, a mere 5 murders, ignited a legend because he was never caught leaving a void we fill with fear. If this dark history shocked you, hit subscribe, like this video, and share to spread Jack's bloody tale. Comment below. Who was Jack, a madman, a genius, or a myth we created? Join Weird History, unveiled for more true crime, tales that unearth history's horrors. Don't miss out. Subscribe now.